Hi and welcome to this video. I'll show you how you connect Figaf to PIPO. We also covered this in the setting up in Cloud Connector or using in if you're running the Figaf tool in BTP, because using the Cloud Connector is a little different. But here is a little more detail on what you need to do to get this right. So we need to connect to the PI system. Normally you would use a technical user. The main requirement is that it should not change password, because that is just making things a little more complicated. You can use a Cloud Connector if you have that installed and running in BTP. Otherwise, running the system over VPN or something else also makes it easy. We have an option to also install some modules on the place if you're doing testing. For now, it is only for specific use cases that you would actually need to do that. And then the user must have these three roles. Alert consumer, you can skip that one if you do not use the alerting capability of the tool. But the API, either developer or read-only, is important. And obviously, depending on what you want, you can also just give it a read-only access. We also do have dual stack option if you want to connect to the PI system with a dual stack. We do not support via Cloud Connector yet. It is possible. We just need to have some requests on this. You would need to fill in some JQ parameters, and then obviously the messages should be persisted in the SXI underscore admin or monitor. They should be able to see the payload. So if you have not switched on locking, you should do that, because that makes the process a lot simpler. But let's get started. So we go to our Figaf tool. Okay. We go to agents, and we can see we do not have the PI system yet here. So I'll create a new sub 8885. This is our development system. We would need to have the URL here, the host name. So we create a new agent. D75 user. For now, I'll just use my own user, but obviously you could also use whatever you have in the system. We need to have the host for. We can select if it's virtual. Virtual would mean that it is not persistent, or it is. You can use the virtual, so it will not really affect anything, but it will just be in a part of the landscape. You can switch it on to be productive, then we will be a little more cautious about the things we're doing to the system, running tests, etc. Yes. We can define the P4 port here. That is normally 50,004, but you can also find it in the admin tool of it. This is mostly if you're doing DevOps on the PI system, you would need the P4 port. There is some API calls we need to use the EDB module for. And then the thing you can select here is that allow you to override this, and then I normally recommend use the IQ locking as the default one. This will allow you to, when you're creating test cases, to record the locking or payloads inside of that's already persisted as a part of the locking capability. We do have an option if you have like an older 7.4 system or 7.5 system. There is some differences in the APIs and not everything is done. So we do have a web scraping option. Don't use it if it is not required and if it does not give you any problems. Then that is all you actually need to do right now. Synchronized, used SAP PI update. This could also be a relevant one. this will allow you to only synchronize data that is actually being used. Okay, so this is how you set up the tool to deal with the landscape. To synchronize, you can do it either from here. Here we can select and synchronize. This will allow us to synchronize only the directory object that's needed for testing scenarios. This is by far the fastest synchronization that takes place. And the idea here is also, as we have in the PI cloud integration, that we can see versions of objects, we can compare, we can run a lot of these documents that is going on, run them on demand in a much simpler way. Good. We can also synchronize all the objects here, and this will then take all the objects that you have in the state and just put them into the database. And here we can see it has a lot more objects that it needs to go around with. Sometimes we do get a number of errors for some of these things. You can reprocess synchronization and force update, and let me just do that or show you how that you can do that. So if you're here, you press synchronize, you can normally would recommend that you select these two, and also if you are doing a patch of the system or applying new configuration from the Figaf tool, adding these things will give you, it'll check everything again, run it, compare it, and see how it behaves. So now we have synchronized complete. And this is actually all we need to do. We can go in and we can see the, let's just take a repository here, we can see the operation mapping, the message mapping that is used in, we can see it is not linked to any ICO. So we can check here, we can browse the internal payload. Browse internal payload. Does not give a lot of value here. We have here, download the message documentation. No. Here we can see the message mapping in a format. If we had multiple versions of it, we could also do the versioning here, and here we can also use the same comparison option with this. So we can filter here. I'm not sure if we can actually compare two message mapping here. Compare message mapping. So here we can compare these two message mapping, and obviously they are not anything like, but at least it is interesting to see what is going on with these. Yes, but this was actually all you need to do to be able to synchronize the object, have everything in place for setting up testing. We have seen you can synchronize data, and that is all you would need for this. And then later on we can do migrations, we can set it up with other capabilities. So check that out. Thank you.